we're going to talk about today how we can optimize our cravings, because those cravings do not have to run your life. You do not have to be literally held hostage or hijacked by your cravings. You can do something about it. And no, it is not you being weak or having lack of willpower that makes it difficult to resist that Dorito or Frito or corn nuts or, gosh, I hate to even say this word, Takis, which is something my kids tell me about that's available in schools today, which is so horrible. Like, holy crap, you look at the ingredients list, there's almost nothing real in there. Everything is artificial, from the color to the flavor to the processed carbohydrates, flours, sugars, seed oils, all the crap that's in there. It's amazing, but yet we crave it. So why do we crave these things? Like I said, take a deep breath. It's not you. You're not being weak. It's not lack of willpower. It is science that's behind this. And so we're going to get into it today. I'm going to share a couple articles that I also shared in my book, Preventable: 5 Powerful Practices to Avoid Disease and Build Unshakable Health. These are landmark studies that in the last couple of decades have really shed lots of light on this whole business of cravings and our signals that go to the brain and tell us what to eat, when to eat, how often to eat it, and our waistline. Like, how are these things connected? It is science. It is amazing stuff. We're going to get into it in just 1 second. Are you ready? All right. Well, here we go. Sorry, it is hot out there. I'm drinking a little H2O to keep me hydrated. And you should too this time of year, summertime. Oh my goodness, hydration is so critical. And I even throw in at least daily a pack of electrolytes that I add usually to my afternoon water, because I don't know about you guys, the afternoons sometimes are rough for me. I get that little slump, right? That little afternoon slump, especially when it's super hot. I don't know what that is, but that heat just kind of zaps your energy. And like I said earlier, I don't have AC in my house here in Hawaii, so I am drinking lots of water with lots of ice, and I add some electrolytes. So anyway, this secret ingredient, or I should say the secret cause that many don't know, that's at the heart of our cravings, has nothing to do with you as a person. Nothing at all. It's not you being weak. It's not lack of willpower, like Dr. Lulu Hunt Peters in her famous dietary book on the counting of calories, released in the early 20th century, 10, 14, something like that. It's been around over 100 years. And sadly, it's been super destructive in all of our dietary health, wellness culture, because it focused overwhelmingly on just that single thing called the calorie, which is not even a nutritional term. It was used in the physics, right? In the actually originally in steam engines, they used it to calculate how much energy was required to change 1 kilogram of water, right? That's 2.2 pounds of water, or 1 liter of water, 1 degree Celsius. The calorie itself was a physical science term. It had nothing to do with nutrition, yet thanks to Atwater and others, it got into that nutritional science, and forever it will be there. And it's okay that it's there, but it is not well understood. I talk about this more in the book, but let me get into today why we get these crazy cravings and how it is not you, it is them. Now, I'm not saying you can use the victim mentality approach here, but it is them that create these cravings. And let me share with you a landmark article from Bioessays. Now, this was, I'm going to share with you, I'll drop it in the show notes, or you can reach out to me if you want the exact article. This was from 2014. So it's less than a decade old, but this topic is fairly new in the literature, and it's entitled, "Is Eating Behavior Manipulated by the Gastrointestinal Microbiota?" So the microbiota are all those things, largely bacteria, that live in your intestinal tract that literally can sabotage your cravings and your waistline. And this study was remarkable because it looked at specifics of this genus of bacteria called Firmicutes. Maybe you've heard about it, right? This is the one that we want to ditch, the one that we want to decrease in quantity in our gut, right? The health influencers out there are telling you if you want to be firm and cute, be, lean and tight, you got to get rid of the Firmicutes, because many of these species in that genus are not that helpful to your waistline, right? They make you crave more. They make you want to eat this junk food because why? Why would they want you to eat this junk food, this processed food, this hyper palatable food, which right now, present day in the developed world, US and Canada, all the Western world countries, makes up over 60% of our diet. This is the ultra processed foods, over 60%. And kids, sadly, this recent number is up to 67% of our diet is these ultra processed foods. And what they do is they increase the numbers of these bacteria, the Firmicutes, and specific examples of that. They basically need you to eat crap so that they can survive, because that's the rule, right? They want to survive. They want to thrive. They don't care about you. You are collateral damage. Your intestinal inflammation, increased permeability, leaky gut, all the things that are caused by eating junk foods, which are super highly inflammatory, they don't care about because they like this food. It increases their fitness. It helps them to reproduce, to grow, to multiply, and take over your gut. And that's when you get dysbiosis from the overwhelming presence of these not so helpful species, which literally want you to eat junk food. So next time you think about that urge to grab whatever food of choice, junk food, sweet food, salty food, whatever that comes in a package or a box, right? Or with a barcode that has a bunch of ingredients, that has highly processed grains, flours, sugars, and many of them seed oils as well. These things are hyper palatable for a reason, because they cue these bacteria in your gut to grow, proliferate, multiply, and then these bacteria actually send signals to your brain. It is a brain signal. It is a hormonal and neurochemical signal that literally tells you what to eat. It tells you to eat this junk food and to continue eating it. They are sabotaging you. They are literally hijacking you. They want you to eat these things. They have chemical messengers that will actually cause cravings in us. And it is not you being weak. It is them. They are powerful. It is difficult often to overcome these cravings because your brain tells you to eat this, literally tells you. So how can you deal with this? How can you get rid of these cravings that tell you to eat all these highly processed, ultra processed, super palatable foods that taste amazing, salty, sweet, all the things? You got to change up your gut flora, your so-called microbiota. And we're going to talk about how to do that. But I just want to literally share with you once again that it is not you. It is not you being weak. It is not your lack of willpower. None of those things Dr. Lulu Hunt Peters made you think back in her day. And sadly, this has carried through to our dietary movements that you're weak if you eat things like cake and potato chips. You're not weak. You're normal. They were designed for you to love them, right? They have food scientists that want you to crave and eat these things. And they know how it works. They know that these bacteria will literally survive, multiply, replenish, proliferate, and cause you to have these really hard to resist cravings. And so they hijack this nerve that connects the gut and the brain, the so-called vagus nerve, VAGUS, not VEGAS. What happens in Vegas does not stop, does not stay there. This vagus nerve is that main superhighway of connection between the brain and the gut. And these bacteria that love you to eat that junk food, highly processed foods, literally hijack this nerve and tell you what to eat, tell you to eat all this crap, all the garbage, all the stuff. They make you crave these unhealthy foods. They can actually produce toxins that can alter your mood, causing what's called dysphoria. It can literally cause you to be in a bad mood if you don't eat these hyperpalatable junk foods, these comfort foods. These bacteria make you feel bad if you don't eat them, if they're present in your gut. This dysphoria might lean you towards eating the food because you feel better. And once again, that's not you being weak. It is science. They literally hijack this. They produce toxins that can alter our mood. They can even promote changes in our taste receptors. They do all of this. It's amazing that they can do this because this is just recently elucidated in these peer-reviewed data, like in bioessays, as well as frontiers in physiology. They did a specific paper looking at the gut microbiome response to sucralose, which is that famous artificial sweetener Splenda, which I think we're going to have to start targeting more because it has been shown to alter the composition of our gut, cause inflammation, cause leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability. It diminishes the good bacteria, increases the bad bacteria, if you will, causing dysbiosis, sucralose, and it is omnipresent. It is almost everywhere nowadays because I think there's been a little bit of negative publicity recently on aspartame or NutraSweet, which there always was some, right? When they first released it a couple of decades ago, they said it has been shown to cause cancer in some mice and laboratory animals and things like that. This was just kind of like ignored. Now they're bringing up some data that's bringing this back into the limelight and concern. And I suspect possibly this sweetener, aspartame, which is NutraSweet or ACE-K, some of these others, they may be removed and replaced with this one, sucralose, which is really not any better. It's wreaks havoc on your gut. And this article in Frontiers in Physiology 2017 talks about its role in not only causing lots of inflammation and leaky gut, but liver damage. It can actually box or damage your liver. And so, although it is quote unquote grass, generally regarded as safe by the FDA, because they have literally given over 40,000 chemicals, artificial things, both in food and in the cosmetics and all the things that we use, apply to our foods, our skin, our fertilizers, our crops, what have you, this safe status, when I would be questioning that. Many of these, in fact, the majority of these 40,000 chemicals are not allowed in Europe and other countries. And yet here in the US, it's any man's idea, any game, any folks. It's crazy why this has happened. I don't want to get into that part of things, but they exist. They are out there. Many of them are given this sort of grass or generally regarded as safe criteria, but it is not awesome for us. In fact, they have lots of collateral damage. Like in this case, they increase the quantity of the not so good bacteria, which will then hijack things even more, causing you to want to eat more junk food so that they survive and you are the collateral damage. And so this specific article I'm referring to now in Frontiers in Physiology by Bean and colleagues, they looked at sucralose, and that's Splenda, and it is everywhere. In fact, it may even be more prominent now because of this negative, current stuff that we're hearing about the aspartame or the NutraSweet. And so it's out there. In fact, sadly, there's a lot of really, I think, decent companies out there that have decent supplements, things like protein powders and other types of things that have this sucralose in them, and they should know better. I mean, sucralose is not good. It's artificial. It wreaks havoc on the gut. In fact, one of the things that gave me a little comic relief a few days ago is I was in the grocery store in Hawaii looking for a cold beverage, and I saw one of these flashy energy drinks that, OMG, like the marketing on this was amazing. They put all the buzzwords, it has B vitamins, it has green tea, it has all this stuff that's supposed to be good for you. And it is, I'll admit, those things are good for you. They don't tell you the quantities because it's in their proprietary blend. Who knows what's actually in there, right? Because it hasn't been studied by the FDA or anything else. They can say whatever they want. But the thing I didn't like was it was very obvious that it was full of artificial sweeteners. Most importantly, this one called sucralose, which is Splenda, which is not awesome for your gut. And so in this article, it showed by Bayan and colleagues that not only did it cause significant tissue inflammation, the sucralose, but also led to significant liver inflammation or hepatitis. So it is crazy. It increased the production of inflammatory markers as well as wreaked havoc on the gut, causing dysbiosis, causing inflammation, causing leaky gut, causing all of these things that we don't want. And it's available in almost every beverage nowadays that's 0 calorie or low calorie. And so have some caution. Remember that when you want to put something in your mouth, it should be real. It should be whole. It shouldn't be chemically derived in a laboratory. Artificial sweeteners, colors, preservatives, flavors, all these things are not awesome for us, and they're definitely not awesome for our gut. In fact, one of the things that another study has shown with the sweetener saccharin, which is sweet and low, is that it also was linked to gut dysbiosis. In other words, increase of the not so awesome strains and decrease of the good strains like Akkermansia. Akkermansia is amazing. In fact, in my most recent podcast with Dr. Akil, we chatted a bit about Akkermansia, how it literally changed one of his patients' life when they got more of it through the foods that they ate. No, they did not buy this super ultra expensive supplement. I think there's only one on the market right now, which is a probiotic with specifically Akkermansia. It is literally hundreds of dollars. I don't buy it either. I eat the food that increases the colonization and the prevalence of Akkermansia. And that's the purplish color, the bright foods like pomegranate, right? Blueberries, these kind of brightly colored, cranberries as well fall into that. And so eating these super bright purplish colored food, beets, I love beets actually, they will increase Akkermansia. And in this patient, just by eating these foods, she raised her levels significantly of Akkermansia and her inflammation. She had a serious, very severe autoimmune disease. It literally went away with her changing up her diet so that she was eating the things that the good bacteria like the Akkermansia. And then what happens when the good bacteria grow, proliferate? They outnumber these less good bacteria like the Firmicutes we were talking about a little while ago, and they kind of take over in the messaging. And so you no longer will crave these hyperpalatable, super sweet, salty, tasty foods that you once did. And I can share with you in my own personal life, many of you know this story, but I literally was addicted to ice cream. That was my hyperpalatable, highly processed food of choice. I would have it every single night. My wife just reminded me of this the other day because it was our anniversary and we just celebrated 25 years. And we did, I'll be honest, we did have a slice of ice cream pie at the local restaurant that we just love because they have the most amazing fish. It's fresh, it's locally caught. It is amazing. If you ever want a recommendation here in Hawaii, I can help you with that. And I think it was one of our first times ever. We've literally eaten at this one particular restaurant probably over 100 times in the last decade or more. And I don't think we've ever had dessert other than the other night for our anniversary, and tasted yummy. It was an ice cream pie, cake, whatever it was. I think they called it a pie. And it was amazing. But I used to do that every night, eat ice cream, because I had the cravings. I had my gut bacteria sending signals to my brain telling me, Thomas, eat that ice cream. You have to have it. It'll make you feel good. And guess what? It did make me feel good because I knew that they were altering my behavior. Well, I didn't know that very well at the time. I wasn't super well versed in gut health and the microbiota at that point. That was decades ago. And when I decided to change my habits, to change the food I was putting into my mouth and eat the foods that the healthy bacteria like, which is basically real food without a long ingredients list, the single ingredient real foods, and also increasing my daily consumption of those awesome probiotic rich foods. Locally here, it is kimchi. In fact, I just found a new type that I love, very spicy. I like spicy, and it was awesome locally made kimchi. And if you don't like these fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir, or there's a couple varieties of soybeans that are pretty interesting that you can try as well that are fermented. And if you don't want to try those, it's okay. You can take a probiotic supplement. In fact, Dr. Akil and I talked about a couple of things to look for in a probiotic supplement because there's way too many out there. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, available. And you don't want to be wasting your money. You want to know specifically what works, what doesn't, what you should get. And so that's a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But you can reach out to me if you want to know which probiotic supplements I personally take or what types of probiotic rich foods I eat. I'd be happy to share that with you. But he and I basically talked about taking the ones that are proven, that have data, that have research, like the Saccharomyces boulardii, for example. My supplement contains that bacteria specifically. Also, a couple of the forms of lactobacillus are very helpful. Mine has a bunch of those helpful strains as well. So take the stuff that shows in the data, in the literature, to be helpful and proven, and make sure it's from a highly reputable company that uses third-party validation for safety, quality, efficacy, and purity, all those good kinds of things. And eat a bunch of probiotic-rich food if you can tolerate it. It may not initially be your preference, but I will promise you, as your gut bacteria and diversity changes, increases, improves, it will start to taste better to you. You'll actually crave it, because I didn't used to like kimchi 30 plus years ago when I moved to Hawaii for the first time in the very, very early 1990s. I did not love kimchi, but over the years, not only have I acquired a taste for it, I actually really like it. I like other fermented foods that we make locally in Hawaii as well, but that's because my gut flora, the composition, the diversity has changed, and it can with you too. And it is a lot of fun because you know my philosophy of adding more than subtracting to the diet, right? There's only 3 things you really have to subtract. That's it, 3 things: the highly processed sugars, the highly processed grains and flours, and then the highly processed seed oils. Anything that says vegetable oil that comes from a seed like a soybean, a grapeseed, rapeseed, that's canola, safflower, sunflower, all of these things that are literally highly, highly processed that come from seeds or vegetables making oil are not awesome. Those that come from fruit that we've been using for millennia, like from an olive, from an avocado, from a coconut, for example, these are the good ones because they're not highly processed. They are not highly inflammatory. They're natural. They're simple. Our body is familiar with it. And they are not so dang inflammatory like all these other ones that are everywhere. Literally in the salad dressing that says olive oil dressing, make sure you read that ingredients label because it may be the 3rd, 4th, 5th, or even 7th ingredient, as I recently found in a salad dressing that said olive oil dressing. And before that was both canola oil and sunflower oil and soybean oil, 3 seed oils before the olive oil, which means that they were much greater quantities, and the olive oil was the tiniest amount. Yet they were advertising olive oil, and I just it pains me to even share that because it's super annoying that we are being misled. So you got to read the stinking ingredients list. So another study I want to share with you, looking at NutraSweet, that's aspartame. It was a May 2021 study, so pretty recent, reported in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences. It was talking specifically about NutraSweet, but also talked about other sweeteners. And they found, in fact, that both sweet and low, or saccharin, aspartame, NutraSweet, and sucralose, or Splenda, they all had negative impacts on gut health. In fact, in my research for the book, I literally scoured the medical literature, and I could not find one single article, not even one, that mentioned positive benefits on your gut microbiota from an artificial sweetener of any kind. Not one single study, zero. At best, the ones that were promoted by all of these food companies as, oh, look at this sweetener is safe, it is this, it is that. At best, it showed that possibly they were safe in the sense that they were neutral with respect to weight gain or weight loss, whatever they happen to be looking at that time, but they were definitely not better for you, and they were not helpful. Ever did I find one study that showed they were helpful for your gut microbiota, not one. And you know, just like Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, that all disease begins in the gut, I believe that all health begins in the gut. So we have to pay attention to them, because they do outnumber us. These bacteria, primarily, other species as well exist, like viruses, protozoa, fungi, candida, which is yeast. All these exist in our gut as well, and they outnumber us. If you compare them 1-to-1 with human cells, we have, somewhere in the neighborhood around 30 trillion human cells, and there's probably around 40 trillion of them. So they do outnumber us. Their genetic material, the so-called microbiome, significantly outnumbers our human DNA, probably by upwards of 10 times. So there's way more DNA, way more genetic material in them than in us. We are more them than us. We're not as human as we thought. And these things, as you just learned about, can hijack your cravings, hijack your mood even. And maybe if you're having concerns or issues with, struggles with all different types of mood conditions like depression, like anxiety, restlessness, all of these things you may have struggles with. I know personally I've had struggles with all of these, and a lot of times they can be traced back to your very own diet, because remember that these things, these bacteria primarily, literally send signals, both chemical, neurohumoral signals, in this very important superhighway nerve called the vagus nerve that will hijack your brain, and they can make you depressed, they can make you sad, they can make you tearful, they can make you anxious, literally coming from the food that you eat. And so as you change what you eat and go to the real food diet, right? Eating plenty of single ingredient, real foods, both proteins and vegetables, fruits, all the things that the gut bacteria love. You will increase the quantities of the good bacteria, so to speak, that will then outnumber the not so good bacteria. So your potential issue with the diversity of your gut microbiota, this so-called condition that you may have heard of called dysbiosis, will then tip your way to your favor, and these healthy bacteria like the Saccharomyces boulardii, like the Akkermansia, they're going to do so many amazing things for you that you will just love it, because it will promote health. It will increase the cravings you have for real foods, for natural, normal, single ingredient foods. It's literally night and day. When I started to pay attention to my gut health, it was almost hard to even admit that my cravings had completely changed. Like, I didn't even want to believe it. It was so night and day. It was such a profound difference. Like, I went from, as I mentioned, daily, in fact, every single day, eating ice cream, a huge giant bowl. My wife will tell you, it was like a half, of one of these half-gallon things. So like a quart of ice cream almost every night, to, I just didn't even care if I ever had ice cream anymore. I mean, I still like it. Like I shared with you, I had on my anniversary just the other night, we shared one piece of ice cream pie, and I still like the smooth, the tasty, the, flavors and the creaminess, but I don't ever crave it anymore. And that has been huge in my health, in my life, in my waistline, in my mood, actually, as well. My wife will tell you that all those many years I was eating my daily dose of ice cream, it did not help my mood. In the moment, I liked it, right? I was enjoying it. I was happy in the moment, but overall I was depressed. I was super anxious. I was irritable. I was not a very pleasant human. And a lot of that had to do with not taking care of my gut, because if you take care of your gut, it will take care of you. And I just wanted to close with another article that I thought was pretty darn cool, because it was in Nature. Nature is one of the most prolific scientific journals, peer-reviewed, amazing journals that is most well-respected throughout the world. This was 2015. It talked about dietary emulsifiers and how they impact the microbiota, which could even cause colitis and metabolic syndrome. This was Nature 2015. And so all the things that we were talking about at the outset, not just the artificial sweeteners, but emulsifiers, the things that make our food so hyper palatable, so creamy, right? A lot of the reason why ice cream is creamy is they use these fake emulsifying agents that make it really smooth consistency, so it doesn't separate, so it stays creamy, right? Or the beverages that are out there. And sadly, a lot of times, even in ones that are so-called healthy, things like almond milk, coconut milk, you got to look in there and make sure there's no emulsifiers, because they can have things that are not helpful to your gut that literally wreak havoc. Some of the common ones are carboxymethyl cellulose and polysorbate 80. These are common emulsifiers, so look for them in the label. Polysorbate 80 and carboxymethyl cellulose, they cause significant inflammation. They play roles in obesity and metabolic syndrome, increases the risk of getting even colitis, which is significant inflammation of the gut lining, which can lead to not only increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut, but also just a generalized super high inflammatory state, which can lead to type 2 diabetes. It can lead to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, which is the most common cause of liver transplant present day and is completely preventable. And one of the things that gets you on this track is eating these processed foods that have the artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners, and these emulsifiers, because they increase the endotoxin, which is causing significant inflammation, causing leaky gut, causing increased intestinal permeability, and leads to all these metabolic conditions. And so getting back to the basics, getting back to real, whole, single ingredient foods is where it's at. You know me, I'm all about adding rather than subtracting. Please make sure you are following me over on Facebook, Instagram, Dr. Thomas Hemingway, Dr. Thomas Hemingway. I share with you some of the cool new foods that I'm eating in Hawaii. We have lots of different vegetables, fruits that are available here, like the star fruit, for example, the dragon fruit, the lilikoi, lychee, rambutan, all of these fruits that aren't necessarily available all over the world. But I would encourage you to stop by your local farmer's market, wherever you live, and try some new, colorful Color is amazing. It's beautiful and it's great for your gut. Remember today you learned about Akkermansia and how those colorful purpley foods, the beets, the pomegranates, the cranberries, they will increase the colonization of Akkermansia, which is crucial to help you not get leaky gut, to not get increased intestinal permeability, because they help build up that barrier, that mucus line barrier that will protect you from a lot of these inflammatory conditions, even autoimmune disease, even the increasing prevalence of food allergy sensitivities, which largely is due to leaky gut. Because what happens is when we eat the processed food diet, the standard American diet, the SAD diet, which is highly inflammatory, we get openings in the junctions between the intestinal cells, the gap junctions called leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability, where we get a lot of food particles, undigested food, we get toxins, we get bacteria crossing literally right into our bloodstream and causing inflammatory havoc and food sensitivities. And when we increase the lining, the thick mucus lining that will protect us with the bacteria like Akkermansia, we can avoid a lot of these issues and even resolve them in our own life. I know this is something that has helped me tremendously because I definitely believe I had leaky gut. I was super inflamed. I'd wake up, I was in my 30s and early 40s, and I'd wake up just super achy. I thought I was just getting older. I thought, oh my gosh, this old thing is a bee, right? I hate getting old. Now I'm in my 50th year and I'm feeling amazing. I don't wake up with aches and pains. I don't wake up with brain fog. I regularly, usually a couple of times a day, have a nice poop. I use the bathroom, have bowel movements a couple of times a day. And if you're not pooping at least once a day, you need to talk to me. You need to jump in, get involved in all the groups that I'm doing. If you want to get real personal attention, jump into the Thrive community, because you need to get your gut healthy. It will affect positively every aspect of your health in your life if you improve your gut. And so eating real foods, whole foods, even probiotic rich foods, potentially also adding supplementation can be critical and help you in this process to build a bulletproof gut so you don't have leaky gut, you don't have increased intestinal permeability. No, it's not just as simple as, some influencers out there say, oh, you just take my supplement, which is able to help you to eat lectins because lectins punch holes in your gut. Like it's not quite like that. It's not so simple. And it's not, that you have to avoid lectins, for example. That's a whole topic for another day. It just reminded me of a YouTube video I once saw about how lectins are literally like bullets hitting your gut lining, just blasting. It's like a shotgun going off inside in your gut, causing lots of holes and permeability. And it's not quite like that. I eat lectins almost daily because I love tomatoes. Tomatoes have super helpful stuff in there, like lycopenes. I actually like beans. I have to cook them really well. I can't, never any of us should be eating raw beans. That's like a disaster for your gut. But if you cook them, especially pressure cook them, slow cook them for long periods of time, they decrease the amount of these lectins, and many people will tolerate it. In fact, there's a lot of cool stuff that you can get benefits from, like fermented beans, for example, right? If you've ever had some fermented, like soy here in Hawaii, in Japan, in the Orient, we have lots of cool things like natto, for example. That's kind of a cool fermented food, which I happen to like, and some others as well. And so lectins are not necessarily the enemy. You got to make sure you cook them or ferment them, make the lectin content and these other anti-nutrients, so-called, to decrease in number so you can actually benefit from the helpful things that are there, because there are helpful substances there which are good for you. There's protein, obviously, in soy. I eat whole soy. I don't eat soybean oil, like I mentioned. I like the real foods, not the highly processed ones. So at the end of the day, you are in control. I want to make sure you know this. It is not that you are weak. It is not that you are not worthy. It is not that you cannot resist, that you don't have willpower. None of that. Stop that thought in its tracks. You are powerful. You can control this, and you can do it with the help of these little guys and gals, the microbacteria, the so-called microbiota, these bacteria and living things in your gut primarily that will help you in the process. If you feed them, they will thrive, and in turn, so will you, and you will ditch these cravings for the hyperpalatable foods, and you'll be on your way to less inflammation, better health, sharper focus, mental acuity, clarity, and just feeling awesome. So I hope you enjoyed the show today. It has been my pleasure. I love to talk about these things. It is just a gift that I can share it with you because there are things that have helped me tremendously in my life to live better and have that vitality, that focus, that energy, and to thrive, not simply survive life. That is my mission. That is my pride. That is my joy. And I'm so grateful you are here, a part of this movement. If you enjoyed, liked, learned anything here in this show and you want to pass it along to a friend, please share. I love it when you do that. Share, tag me on Instagram, Dr. Thomas Hemingway, share the podcast, drop a review, please. Grab a copy of my book, Preventable, and drop a review for it. Really appreciate that so much. In fact, I'm going to do an upcoming contest where I'm going to give away a $100 gift certificate for one lucky person who dropped a review of my book on Amazon or on my podcast on Apple, where I can see it readily, and that could be you. So make sure you're dropping a review, make sure you're sharing, subscribing so you never miss an episode. And in the meantime, just keep living. Just keep living. Remember, every day is a gift. Every day is precious. You are valuable. You are amazing. You can do so much. I love and appreciate you. And until next time, big aloha. Thanks for watching, and remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss out. Aloha.